A very warm welcome to the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show. And today's show is I Had No Choice, which captures the life of a true footballing legend from his days in the 1980s through to the 2000s in a long and distinguished career. He was a defender, applying his trade from 1983 to 2001. He had lengthy spells in the old First Division for both Aston Villa, Chelsea, before signing with Leeds United in 1991, where he won the First Division title and went on to feature in the Premier League from 1992 to 1997. He had spells in Serie A in Italy with Torino before returning to top-flight English football with Derby County. Despite being born and raised in Australia, he represented the English national team, winning 15 caps. He also was capped at the English under 21 and England B level team levels as well. He retired in the Football League with Stoke City in 2001. Since retirement, he has worked in media and has worked as a pundit and commentator for Eurosport, Bravo, Channel 5, ESPN and Sky Sports. Yes, folks, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome on the show Tony Dorigo. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Lovely. Thank you very much for the invite.
Absolutely. And sorry about the long intro there, but it had to be done because you're such
okay.
a great character and a great career. So that's why.
No
Tony,
problems at all.
No, you're welcome. I always start from the beginning. So, Tony, you were born in Melbourne, Australia, to an Italian father and Australian mother. The family, though, soon moved to Adelaide in South Australia, where you were raised. So, tell us more about your early life and adventures in Australia.
Yeah, I think for me, my father had a big influence. Obviously, being Italian, he loved football. So I would, play from 1, 2 years of age with him in the back garden, and then he would play. So I would go with him and play and train and kick the ball. And then, of course, once you get to school, that was it. I was into football in a big way, and just slowly progressed, from there. And I think I was clearly ahead of my time age-wise. I was only very small. I was a late developer, but my abilities was that I could play, over my age. But it was just a case of enjoying what I was doing, getting better, and kind of, pushing myself at each year that I was playing. And then eventually, the biggest team in Adelaide was Adelaide City, and I went to sign for them. I think I was 14, 15. And then all of a sudden, I was training with the first team as well at 15. And then you start to think, well, okay, I'm doing rather well. What is it to be my next step? What could I achieve? Where do I need to go to achieve that? And that's when all these thoughts were kind of whizzing around in my head, because I would go to bed at night, and then suddenly you dream about all these incredible things. And for me, even Adelaide at that time, it was about scoring at Wembley. I used to watch the FA Cup final, all the time. I thought, imagine if I could score at Wembley, or could I win the title, or could I play in a World Cup? All these sorts of things. So I was like no other boy, any other boy. I was dreaming, but I thought I'm getting closer and closer. So what could I then do? And what was interesting at Adelaide City, Justin Fashanu actually turned up. So
Wow.
the Norwich City player, yeah. So he turned up and he guest starred for Adelaide City for just 4 or 5 games. And so I
Fantastic.
trained with Justin and, of course, the other players at 15 years of age. And that's when all of a sudden I'm thinking, wow, let's find all this information out. What's it like over there? Could it be possible? What is possible? And that's when, I decided that's where I wanted to be.
Ah, fantastic! I mean, what a great bit of experience that was. When you played also youth football for teams in the area of Adelaide, as well as age group football for South Australia, and in your mid-teens, as you quite rightly said, you were training with the Adelaide City's first team. I mean, that is one experience, of course, with Justin Fashanu as well, Tony. Training with the first team at a young age. Wow.
Yeah, it is. And what it does, it pushes you along and gets you to understand the technical side of the game. Because
Definitely.
I think what my advantage was is that I wasn't big, I wasn't really physical. So I
Mm.
had to work out either mentally or tactically or technically the way to beat players. And that's really what you want. You don't want to rely on your speed, because once you actually grow up with everyone else, everyone's an adult,
Yes.
then that kind of advantage is gone. So that's what happened. So that's why I think it was really good, because my birthday is the 31st of December. In Australia, the years run from the 1st of January to 31st December. So I was the youngest in my year.
Oh,
So anything that put me behind the eight ball, I think, kind of helped me in the long run. But I played in the state, you're right, for South Australia in the national championships.
yes.
And at 15, I got picked in the under 18 Socceroos squad as well. But I never got to play with them because I decided to head over to England.
Yeah, you're quite right. Your intelligence came through here as well with this decision-making process. You were actually quite resourceful at the time, I think, having read and observed the history of yourself, Tony. And obviously, you knew you were a good player, so you wrote to, I think, 14 top-flight clubs in England and asked for a trial. Aston Villa, though, were the first club to respond and offered you a 4-day trial, which proved successful.
Mm.
So tell us about this trial, Tony, and of course, leaving Adelaide, your home, for the industrial Midlands of England and Aston Villa Football Club. Oh, what an
Yeah, but
experience.
I didn't know anything about that. So all I'm thinking is, right, I need to get over to England somehow. And you're
Yes.
right, I wrote all those letters, but only one replied, and that was Aston Villa. And even to this day, I joke with them for 37 pence stamp, which is a reply to give me a go. They
Yes.
ended up making about £500,000 out of me. So, yeah, it was a chance. It was an opportunity. It was a trial for 4 days. And they said, we will put you up. We will feed you.
Yes.
You'll train with the youth team who are 16 and 17 years of age, but I was only 15.
Mm.
And let's see how you go. You've got 4 days. You can't come on a Friday because we prepare for a match on a Saturday and you're going to get in the way so that you can come Monday to Thursday. And that was it. And you know what? That's all I needed. I thought, oh my God, when I got the letter, I
Yes.
was beside myself
Oh,
because
I
the
bet.
claret and blue Aston Villa logo was on the outside of the envelope. And it was
Oh,
just like incredible. And the thing is, you have to realize that I'm from Adelaide, Australia, a bit of a backwater. Well, back then, a lot of a
yes.
backwater. And suddenly this big club, Aston Villa, is inviting me over. So
A huge
it
club.
was I was beyond excited. And my father and I decided then to come over together in October of 1981. So that's when the journey started. Yeah.
Incredible. I mean, you made your league debut for Aston Villa against Ipswich Town in 1984 as an
Yeah.
18-year-old, so a few years,
Yeah.
and went on to win the club's Player of the Year award during your 4 years at Aston Villa. So, how was your debut, Tony? And what year did you win the Player of the Year? You must have been a huge fan's favourite. Let's be honest, Aston Villa.
Well, I think for a defender, I think it's probably slightly easier in that what fans want is they want their players to be committed, to give absolutely everything for the
They
shirt
do.
that they're playing for, and for me, it was like a dream come true. And I would fight to the death, just to try and get points for Aston Villa. And yeah, I had my debut against Ipswich
Yes.
away, and my full debut was against Chelsea at home.
Wow.
And then to play at Villa Park, to be in front of 30, 40,000 people, to play at all those great grounds around the country, I was just beside myself. It was incredible. And yeah, I think not that year, but the year after, I think then I was player of the year as well. So things went extremely well. But I was always mentally trying to think, okay, well, but what's the next step?
Yes.
What can I do to improve? What can I now do to try and get better and to try and win things and achieve things? And it was always a case of, yeah, okay, I've done that, and I'm delighted. But what's the next step? And Aston Villa taught me fantastically well. And the youth team manager there at the time was Brian Little,
Oh, really?
actually.
What a great player
Yeah,
he was in his
a
day
great
too.
player, a great manager. Went on to
Yes.
manage Aston Villa and Leicester as well. But he set me on my way, gave me the ground rules, gave me the
Mm.
understanding of what to do it, how to do it, and I'll be eternally grateful, to him certainly for setting me on my way.
Absolutely right. Brian Little, fabulous player. And of course, playing in front of a full crowd at the Villa Park, huge gates they used to get didn't they, back in the day. The atmosphere must have been absolutely fantastic. It really must have been.
It was, and also the year that I then joined, they won the European Cup, or the
Yes.
now Champions League. So they were the best team in Europe, and there I am as an apprentice, learning from the best. So
Mm.
it really couldn't have gone any better. But actually, it was quite funny. The season after, the first game of the season, I never forget. Aston Villa played Sunderland at home, and me and another apprentice called Dave Norton, a fantastic friend and player. we had the European Cup in our hands and were taking it around the pitch before the first.
Wonderful.
It was incredible. So I've got this European Cup. I'm going the Villa fans, and they were like going crazy. What I
Yeah.
didn't quite expect is I went in front of the Sunderland fans, and we got pelted with coins and everything. I made about £3.75. It was
Well, that's all right.
incredible.
Not too bad.
Unfortunately, the European Cup was a bit dented, but not to
Yeah.
worry. But yeah, but just to be part of all that was fantastic. Yeah.
A great experience because that Aston Villa side was brilliant that year when they won the European Cup. I think I remember that was it Gary Shaw up front, but I seem to forget his number, his opposite. Well, his number is played alongside him,
Peter
number
With,
10.
well, Peter
Peter
Peter Withy,
Peter
Peter With,
With.
and Gary Shaw. Yeah,
It
Tony Morley,
was.
Dennis Mortimer, Des Bremner,
Oh, what a
Ken McNaught, Alan
side!
Evans. Yeah, there was a great players. Colin Gibson, Gary Williams, Kitty
Wow.
Swain. There was a lot of really good players. And again, for me, it was all a learning curve. And they were a good bunch of guys, really professional, but always willing to help out. And it just
Yes.
set me on my way. They were great guys. They were.
Fantastic. And Peter Wibb, I'm talking to Peter Wibb at the moment about coming on the show, actually. So
Yeah, right.
talking about October, but strangely, he's based in Australia, sort of
He
opposite from
is.
where you are now, of course, and where you come from. And he's agreed to come on the show, which is good. Just got to get the date and the time. The time's going to be the thing.
I was about to say it's more to do with the time. It's more to do with
It
the
is.
time. And what was interesting, I was an ambassador for Leeds United, and I went
Wow.
back to Australia with the club.
Oh,
And
wow.
so Leeds went down under to play various games. And guess what? In Brisbane, they played Aston Villa, and there I am being ambassador for Leeds United, and I come up against Peter With. So
Well,
me and Peter With are talking to the TV and what have you, and the guests at the ground. It was just great to catch up with him. Yeah, you're right. We've done a swap.
you
I'm
did
now living
indeed.
in England, and he's now living down under. But it was great to see him again.
Oh, fantastic. Great experiences. Certainly you've lived a good life here. You really have, Tony. And then, of course, in 1987, you signed for Chelsea from Aston Villa for 475,000. And yes, you were right, nearly half a million. And won the club's Player of the Year award in your first season. Although Chelsea were relegated that season to the old second division. So a bit of a strange season, I can imagine, emotionally, Tony. But you were an
It
instant hit at
was.
Chelsea, weren't you? Instant
It
hit.
it it was a real strange season, and it was strange how I ended up there because it was the year that Aston Villa were really struggling, and we couldn't score goals.
Hmm.
So we needed desperately a striker, and Aston Villa wanted to get David Speedy from Chelsea.
Oh, good player.
Uh, yeah, good player, really good player, and to try and save them in a Division One. But good old Ken Bates at Chelsea decided that, you know what, Doug Ellis, you can have David Speedy, but we want Tony Dorigo. And so Doug Ellis, the owner of Aston Villa, rang me and said, right, I'm going to pick you up. We're going to Chelsea. We're doing a swap deal with David Speedy. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I done wrong? What's going on
Yes,
all of a
exactly.
sudden? Things are going great. Things are going well. Yeah, we really are struggling in the league, but hopefully we'll survive. But this
Yes.
is like it's a business deal. And in the end, that's what got me. I thought, wow, I want to be at Aston Villa for the rest of my life.
Mm.
It doesn't work that way. As soon as it's advantageous for the club or whatever they need, whether
Oh,
they need
yes.
money or whether they need a player, you're going to be out the door. So it was a hard one to take, but I never forget. I went down with Doug Ellis, and we went to the Post House Hotel at Heathrow, and we were told that the meeting rooms were up on the second floor.
Yep.
So we get the elevator up, and we walk out the elevator, and we go into the corridor, and about 50 yards along, we can see Chelsea. We can see David Speedy. We can see Ken Bates and the club secretary.
Mm.
And then we looked at each other. It was like a standoff. And then it was like a
Mexican
prisoner
standoff.
swap. It was like a prisoner swap. Speedy
Wow.
starts to walk towards our lot. I then started walking towards them. We met in the middle. I said, "Good luck." He said, "No, you need more good luck than I do." And we carried on, and then talked to our prospective new clubs. Neither of us actually agreed to join at that time. But then later on in the season, unfortunately, Aston Villa did get relegated.
Mm.
Chelsea came in with an offer that Villa accepted, and it was up to me whether to play in the second division or to stay in the top flight. So I went to Chelsea and stayed in the top flight. But you are quite right. I clearly had to get relegated because it was in the stars
Yes.
that year. I got relegated, and in the final game of that season, I was told 10 minutes after we were relegated and in the changing rooms that I'd made the England squad for Euro 80,
6. Oh, no. 88?
88, Euros
Yes.
88 in Germany, that I'd made the England squad. I was just my honestly, my brain was scrambled
Mixed
because it was just
emotions.
so disappointing of getting relegated in a playoff. The
Mm.
only year ever it was a playoff, but yeah, and then I made the England squad.
Yeah, I remember the playoff. It was against Middlesbrough, wasn't it, I think?
Middlesbrough, you were
Yes, it
absolutely right.
was. Home and
Yeah,
away,
yeah,
Ayresome Park and all that going back in the
yeah,
day.
it was.
Tremendous.
Yeah,
However, life is great, isn't it? However, you helped Chelsea win promotion back to the old First Division in the following season at the first attempt. I mean, I personally have to say, Ted, remember that promotion season very well. I went to quite a lot of games at Stamford Bridge, actually, and some away games too. The good times back at Stamford Bridge, Tony, winning the title by a massive 17-point margin
yeah.
from Manchester City. And what do you recollect about that emphatic season in 88-89?
You know what? It
Oh,
was a wonderful season because the Chelsea fans. I mean, my goodness, they're wonderful. They're passionate.
they are.
I always kind of measure football teams by their away support as well because they're the real hardened ones that travel everywhere. And Chelsea, it was always thousands. The support we had away was just incredible. And that season, we had some really good players. We were a decent team. What we didn't do was kind of be consistent enough
Mm,
to challenge. And we went down. We kept nearly all the same players. If you think back, it's Kerry Dixon, it's Gordon
yes.
Jury, it's Pat Nevin, it's some really top class players. Steve Clark was
Oh,
right
yeah.
back. I was left back. We were a quality team. Yet, unfortunately, we got relegated. So we brought in. I remember. I think it was Graham Roberts
Mm.
from Chelsea
Strong
was
player.
important. Peter
Oh.
Nicholas, exactly. Just a couple of experienced heads
Mm.
to knock a few of us together, and we were, yeah, unbeatable. We won it by an absolute mile. I think we went 34 or 35 games unbeaten.
I think you
And so
did.
the confidence was there. We were scoring goals for fun, and there was some great, great games. And me in particular, I just remember one, and a lot of Chelsea fans remind me of it. And of course, you're right. You mentioned Manchester City because it was us and
Mm.
Manchester City were the
It
top two
was.
by a long way. We went up to their place at Main Road, and I scored running away from the halfway line around the keeper and won, and we won that game. So that was it was incredible, great support and a great game.
Absolutely. So, both Chelsea and Man City were both pulling away, you're quite rightly so. And it was actually in February 1989, and the two sides met at Main Road. It was, you're right, on a Friday night, billed as a title decider. I can remember watching it. It was a huge game. Chelsea actually went 3-0 up at one point and eventually won the match 3-2 with you, Tony,
Yeah.
scoring a brilliant individual goal. That's how it's described. Chelsea fans will indeed remember that for a long, long time. So please tell us about your magnificent goal. It was a stunner.
Yeah, it was because it was the game. It was
Mm,
the game of the season. We played lots of other teams and we beat them comfortably. But Man City were a good team,
they
and
were.
going to their place, it was all about can we show them who's boss in this
Mm,
league and can we do it? So to then score in such an important game was great. But yeah, it was actually from their corner kick.
mm,
And so I always used to defend kind of either on the back post or at the edge of the 18-yard line. And
yes.
the ball came across from their corner kick. It got headed out, and their player kind of took a touch and a touch, but we were sprinting out. We got a bit of a tackle in, and it ricocheted, and I got the ball about 5 yards inside our own half. Then I just knocked it, and of course used my speed to get away from kind of everyone. And then I look up, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm on my own. I look left, I look right. There's no one here. I'm running away from everyone. I'm over the halfway line. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer, and their goalie's coming out. It's just me and him basically.
Yes.
And it's always for a fullback as well. We're not normally in that position, so normally you have too much thinking time. But fortunately, I knocked it just the right distance. He came out. I knocked it around him and just slotted it into the net, and that
Perfect
was it.
goal. I
Yeah,
remember it.
it was brilliant. It was brilliant. Really good.
And then Chelsea, of course, being Chelsea, put us all on the edge of our seats, letting two goals in towards the end, thinking, oh, no, 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 no. Because I'll tell you what that brought back memories of me, actually, was in the 1986 Four Members Cup final when Chelsea played Manchester City.
Yeah.
at
Five
Wembley,
four.
5-4.
Yeah.
Chelsea went 1-0 down. Then all of a sudden, the magic of Chelsea put Chelsea 5-1 up. Game over. Oh, no. Man City came back and scored 3 goals in the last 10 minutes to make it 5-4. Chelsea won 5-4. So this game that you're playing in there at Main Road, of course, the old ground of Man City,
Yeah.
I had visions. 3-0 up. It's now 3-2. No, this can't happen, surely. And it didn't,
There
thankfully.
there were some crazy ones with Chelsea because I
Mm.
remember, I think Derby County away as well,
Yes.
where we played them, and I'm sure we were, I think, 4-0 up or something crazy. They then got it back to 4-4, and we won 6-4. It was like a tennis match in the end. It was like bizarre, but hey, we're entertaining, so that was good. That was good.
Absolutely. Of course, that full members cup final, we'll get off this in a minute, in 86 was played a day after they played in a top flight match. So the team were
Yeah,
playing again the day after they played top flight football. So first
which was
division
crazy.
match, following day, cup final at Wembley. I mean, that
Yeah,
wouldn't happen today, would it?
that does not happen. But saying that, another one of my extremely happy memories at Chelsea
Mm,
was the Zenith Data Systems
yeah,
Cup
can come on
final,
to that.
and again, full members. It got changed and what have you. And the early rounds, I suppose, weren't that interesting. You think, oh, what's this all about? But you get closer and closer, and all of a sudden,
Yeah,
my God, semi-final, we can get to Wembley, and of course, we
again.
we won. We got through to Wembley, and yeah, and I'm back to thinking my dream of when I was a young lad and all this sort of
Yes.
stuff. And I'm there with Chelsea playing Middlesbrough, and in front of 76,000 people,
Oh,
and I
absolutely.
stick a free kick in the top corner, and we win 1-0. It was like a dream. It was fantastic.
Well, I wouldn't say it was just a free kick. I mean, you scored the only goal of the match, which was, in my recognition, a scintillating long-range free kick. Let's embrace it with some real words. So
And
Chelsea
every
1-0.
single year, it goes from 20 yards to 21 to 20. It is
Yes.
now a 53-yard free kick from ends up in the top corner.
Yeah, it'll be a goal kick before too long, won't it?
Exactly.
But it was a scintillating goal. I was watching the match, and I do remember you scoring that goal. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And of course, Middlesbrough were a second division side then. So
Yeah.
at 0-0, you're starting to think, oh, really, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Typical Chelsea at Wembley, I guess. But anyway, it came down to a 1-0 win. So great stuff. And what else do you remember about that final, apart from the peach that you scored, Tony?
I think, taking it all in, playing in such a historic place.
Mm,
I'm sure all of us footballers think, well, you want to play at Wembley, you want to experience kind of these sorts of things. And I was very fortunate because I played with England
mm,
at Wembley a number of times as well. But in a cup final with Chelsea, and okay, it wasn't the FA Cup final, the League Cup final, but you tell that to 76,000 fans that were in there that day. They were desperate to
mm.
win, as the players were, and it just was a wonderful experience. I mean, it's hard because you dream of all these things, you work and strive towards them, and you know what? You might never get there. You might never get anywhere near there. But we've all
Exactly.
got those dreams. But to actually then achieve something like that was, it was really, really special.
Quite right. Good words too, because there's been a lot of great players, haven't there, over the years who have been the best in the world and not won anything really,
Yeah.
or very little at the least. But you were there early doors, fantastic. With the this is, yeah, it was a Zenith Data Systems Cup, but I still call it the full members.
Yeah.
Yeah, good bit of sponsorship for you. Anyone sponsoring Zenith right now, which I shouldn't really be doing, but there you are. That's life. I mean, you left Chelsea in somewhat acrimonious circumstances in the summer of 1991, having made and then withdrew a transfer request whilst having fallen out with manager Bobby Campbell after being dropped from the side due to decline a new contract. I mean, it all happens at football clubs, doesn't it? You were sold to Leeds
Yeah.
United for 1.3 million, so Chelsea making a bit of profit, having made 146 appearances for Chelsea, scoring 12 goals. So not a bad record. A good record, in fact, Tony. But also, what about the Bobby Campbell contract fallout? That's
Yeah, I think for me it was a case of at Chelsea at that time. So
mm,
we got relegated, we got promoted again, but I got to say I looked at the club at that time and thought, is everyone rowing in the same direction?
mm,
Because for me, it's really important the culture of a club, and to try and to win things, it's hard enough, and there's some really good clubs and teams and players around. You've got to be trying to do your best, and I got to say, I felt kind of handicapped at Chelsea. I was really
mm,
frustrated because we did have some really good players, Yet we could, like you were just saying there, we could go and win or go 4-0 up and then go 6-4 down. Or there was too many things off the pitch that really affected us on the pitch. And
Yes.
I was kind of not inexperienced, but because I was at Aston Villa, I knew how that club was run. I looked at Chelsea and I'm thinking we should be doing so much better than we were, but there were a few reasons why we weren't, and we were never going to. Then I think Glasgow Rangers came in for me when Graham Souness was manager, and I know Chelsea turned it down, and I said, well, no, I think there's a lot of England players up there.
Yes.
They were winning the titles and things. That the standard was a bit higher. No, I'd like to go there, and so I explained why to Ken Bates. So I went in, I wrote a transfer request. I then had a meeting with Ken Bates, and he basically told me where to go.
Cool.
And told me out the door where to go. You've got 2 years left. You're going nowhere. I would say Ken Bates would never be a great politician.
No, he wouldn't.
And I then said to Ken, well, I won't be signing a new contract ever again here, but I will always give my best. I will always, and play as best I can for those final 2 years. Whereas nowadays, I think it's kind of different. They would have got me out the door and what have you, but
yes,
I couldn't not play. I couldn't do, and I was just, I would always give my best because I signed a 4-year contract and I'm going to, absolutely fulfill it. But they kept offering me new contracts and I just kept refusing them. I thought, well, no, because I don't think we're going to win anything. I just don't at that time. Clearly, fast forward 5, 6, 7 years after that, Chelsea, very different beast. Abramovich comes in, different era, different culture, different ideas, and they do start to win things. But, in my career there and then, I'm 23, 24, I'm about to hit my peak. I want to win something. I want to go somewhere where I can actually win, something. So very frustrated. I wouldn't sign a new contract. So Bobby, and fair play to him. No, I have no, axe to grind at all.
He was a nice guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, no. He said, well, if you're not going to sign, we're not going to play you for the last few games. I said, well, no, I understand that. I absolutely understand that. That's absolutely fine. But I was never going to, sign a new contract. So I waited till my contract ran down. I had options of a few clubs, but Leeds were the first one in to say, no, we really want you to sign. So I went up to talk to Howard Wilkinson. They finished 4th that particular year. And I signed for Leeds United, from Chelsea.
You did indeed. I mean, Ken Bates actually did have the habit, I've heard this from other sources at Chelsea, of really destroying the playing staff's commitment with contract discussions, whereby the players just simply would walk out onto the pitch and didn't want to play. I mean, that was the culture that was being driven, wasn't it?
Unfortunately, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
And that's what was hugely frustrating because we had some really good people there. John Hollands was my first manager, lovely
John.
guy, lovely coach, lovely manager, some really good players. We had Scottish internationals, Welsh internationals, England internationals, really, really top class players thinking, okay, we should be mid-table going and looking for Europe, Yet we didn't. Yet there was chaos at times. And the chaos wasn't within the team. It was always from outside. And I just thought this is not the right way for a football club to be run.
Well said.
And all I can do is I can commit. I can do everything I can to play, but I can then choose after my 4 years of what I'd like to do. And I chose to leave. Yeah.
Quite rightly so. So, it all worked out for you, of course, as well, leaving. You transferred to Leeds United. Of course, you won the First Division Championship with Leeds United in your first season at the club, as well as winning, again, the Supporters Player of the Year award in the same year. I mean, that is some reward for all your hard work in football, Tony, isn't it?
It was, well, again, just another dream, another thing that you're trying to achieve. And Hal Wilkinson up there, we had some really good players and a really good mindset, really good culture about the place. Standards were extremely high. And we had a lovely blend of experience in Gordon Strachan and Gary McAllister. Myself, Mel Sterling, really good young players, speedy. I mean, incredible. And of course, David Batty as well in midfield.
Yes.
Rod Wallace got brought in. You just look around. I thought the balance was lovely. They finished 4th the previous season. I like what I'm hearing and seeing. Let's go there and see what we can do. And it is not easy to win titles. It is
No, it's
very,
not.
very difficult. The best players, the best managers, are all around. Yet, I managed to do it in my first year. Things went extremely well. We won it by 4 points, which was great. And the crowning glory as well. I was player of the year. It could have been one of 10, 11, 12 players, but I'm delighted. With the honour. That was me.
It's fabulous when it comes together like that. As you say, you can have a team of players that are brilliant. You can have a good coach. Doesn't mean you're going to win these titles. Because it is a marathon too, isn't it, Tony? A huge, huge long run to the start to the end of the season. Plus all the other matches in between with cup matches, European football, if you've got it. It's a long season, a marathon.
It is, and it's understanding how to win games, how to win
Mm,
when you're not playing well.
it's true.
It's understanding, the right tactics, using them at the right time. Need a bit of luck, of course, with injuries and
Yes.
decisions that go with you, but they go for you, they go against you. And then when the pressure's on, how to deal with that. And I think one of instance was when we played away at Manchester City. Leeds played
Mm,
Man City away. I don't think it was 5, 6 games to go, something like that, and we lost 4-1.
wow.
And everyone is thinking, "Oh, that's it.
The wheels
It's
have
the
come
end.
off.
No, the
Yes.
wheels have come off. Absolutely no chance." But we didn't think like that, and it was to do with the manager.
Mm,
In that, okay, we've lost that game. What can we learn from it? Let's get back. Let's learn those lessons and just
precisely.
go and win the next game. Then, of course, we went unbeaten to the end. We won nearly all of them, and of course, we won it by 4 points. So, it's a great experience and learning curve of an amazing year with some great guys, great people, and great moments we shared together, which we'll all never forget for the rest of our lives.
Of course, and I know now I met you at Ellen Road in June. You're still attached to the club. You do a lot of radio work and reporting on the football matches they play in, particularly when they're in the Premier League. You did quite a lot there, so you're still attached to the club, aren't you, Tony? The love for the club's there, isn't it? Ellen Road is a place you like to be at. I would
Yeah,
say.
it is. I mean, I was there for 6 years, so it's the
Yeah.
longest period I've spent at a club. And when Andrea Radrizzani bought the club,
Mm,
he asked me to come back and do a bit more with the club if I could,
mm.
be more of an ambassador. And so I was delighted to do that. So I moved back to Leeds. And yeah, so I've done all of the commentating for home and away and every single game
Yes.
that Leeds play. I do that. I'm ambassador for the club in lots of different ways as well, with sponsors and on match days and do all sorts of stuff. So it's lovely. I'm still attached. I obviously I love the club,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm watching and seeing how they get on and going on that roller coaster with with all the other fans as well, as football fans do, don't they, with their club. That's just the way that it is. But
It
it's
is.
nice
Yeah.
to still be part of it and seeing and being part of the club. Yeah.
Brilliant. And you stayed with Leeds United until 1997 when you joined Italian side Torino. At Torino, you helped the club reach the promotion playoffs as well as being awarded the club's Player of the Year. All this despite missing a penalty in the playoff final. So, three playoff Player of the Year awards at consecutive clubs, Tony. You seem to excel everywhere you played. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Uh, it went rather well. It's actually four. So it's Aston Villa, it was Chelsea, it was
Chelsea,
Leeds, and it
Leeds.
was Torino.
It is four. Where
Yeah.
did I get that wrong? My maths is
Well,
appalling.
and Torino was amazing because I was then 32, 33 years of age. I wanted an experience. I always thought Italian football might suit me as well.
Mm,
Um, and being a fullback though, it used to be the midfielders and the attackers that would get those big moves. So
yes.
I never quite managed to get a move to an Italian club. But Graham Souness, who was trying to sign me for Glasgow Rangers all those years ago, ended up at Torino, and he rang me out the blue. I was about to sign for Middlesbrough actually, crazily enough, because Brian Robson was there. He was trying to sign me, but Graham Souness at Torino was a bit more quick off the mark and said, "Come on, come over and experience. You're 32. You've done all of that. Why don't you play some Italian football and
Why
see
not?
how it goes?" So I thought, you know what? Why not? Let's give it a go. Let's get out there and experience something new. And that was the thing. It was new. It was a different way of playing. It was a different mentality. It was very technical. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. But which was really interesting. After 5 or 6 games when I was out there,
Mm,
things were going great. I was in the middle of Torino in a piazza, and I was waiting and having an aperitivo. I was having a bit of prosecco before
Yes.
I was about to go to the restaurant, and it was
Right.
like 30 degrees. The sun was just coming down, and
Sounds
they had a
awesome.
call from a silly Sun reporter back in England to say Gordon Strachan, his manager at Southampton, they want to bring you back from your Italian hell.
What?
So I've gone, Italian hell, mate. You've
Hell?
just interrupted my prosecco and my risotto and my vitello milanese. And I tell you what, leave me alone, bugger off, and I put the phone down.
And quite
And
rightly
that
so
was it.
too.
Absolutely. So I had a great year out there. It was brilliant.
Brilliant. But before we jump back into Torino, there's a bit more to talk about there. Let's talk about your international career with England, because this is quite exciting. For some people, the idea of putting on an England shirt and representing the Three Lions at a major tournament is the stuff of dreams. But for you, as the former Aston Villa, Leeds United, Chelsea, and England defender, you had no choice, is the talk here. That's the
Yeah.
title of the show, of course. It was a necessity. So please let us know the reasons for making
Yeah.
playing for England a necessity, basically, Tony.
Yeah. It was certainly going back to being Australian. My father's
Yep.
Italian. I had no English in me whatsoever.
Mm.
And so clearly, my dream when I was growing up was to play for Australia, play for the Socceroos. I
Yes.
remember my first World Cup that I watched was 1974. I think it was in Germany.
Mm.
Australia were there, and they hardly ever got to a World Cup. So I'm up middle of the night, watching all these games, and it was the Socceroos that I wanted to play for. Well, of course, that's what when you're where you're born, you want to play for your country,
You do,
obviously.
yes. Natural,
Then
isn't
at
it?
15, I left and I went to Aston Villa. When I got into the first team at Aston Villa, I was then 18. I was playing kind of regularly. And that's when the Australian Soccer Federation got in touch with me and said, "We'd love you to play for us." Uh, I'm thinking, wonderful, incredible. They want me to play for Australia. Excellent. So where do you want me and how do you want me? What are the dates?
Yeah.
What's going on? So, well, we're playing in the World Cup qualifiers and we need you for a 5 week period because we've got these 5 or 6 games in this 5 week period. Now, what you have to remember is at the moment, we have the international calendars are all aligned. So,
Yes.
South America, North America, Europe, and Asia, everywhere, it's all blanked out certain weekends, and all the players fly to their home country, play their games, they come back to their club, and on they go. Not
Mm.
a problem. Unfortunately, when I came across, that wasn't the case. There was no international calendar. And so I would have to have 5 weeks out of the season to go and play. So you can imagine now, your Christmas time and suddenly you're going to lose one of your players for 5 weeks.
Yes.
It wouldn't happen. And so I went in to see the then manager of Aston Villa, all proud to go to Tony Barton to say,
Yes, it
boss,
was Tony.
Australia rang me and they want me to play in their World Cup qualifiers. And he goes, right. So when are they? So I told him the dates of this 5 weeks. He says, so let me get this right. You want to take 5 weeks out of the season that you've just got in the team. You're 10 games into your career.
Yes.
You want to play in the World Cup qualifiers. He goes, tell me the teams you're playing against. So I've gone, well, Fiji, American Samoa.
Mm.
He goes, American Samoa. Who the hell are they? I said, I don't really know who they are, but that's what I said. And you're telling me you want to go and play for them and not play against Manchester United, not play against Arsenal, not play against Tottenham. He says, you ain't doing it. Just get out the door. You're not doing it. And that
And,
was it.
and that was it. And what Tony Barton also said, I know he refused permission for you to travel, but Tony Barton actually felt that playing for Australia, you just tried to say this, I think, there as well, Tony, that playing for Australia would be a waste of time for you, as the opponents were generally weaker opposition from Oceania. It looks like, really,
Yeah.
Tony Barton was looking after your best interests, Tony, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I understand from his point of view, absolutely. And
Yeah.
one of the games, and I think what's really interesting is that I think the American Samoa game,
Mm.
I think in the end, Australia won that 23-0 or something like that. Yeah, and one of us players scored, I think, 10, 11, or 12 goals in the one game, which is the
Crikey.
most of anywhere. So you're right. The opposition was very basic, and I get why, but that wasn't the point. It's about representing your country,
It is.
and for me, that was very, very difficult. So I wanted to, but I understood why, and no problems at all. So played for Aston Villa, on we go. And then a couple of years later, England approached me
Yes.
and said, "Okay, Tony, you've been here now 4 years. Do you know after one more year of residence in the UK, you can apply for citizenship? And then when you get citizenship, you get a British passport and you can choose which country you'd like to play for. And us, as the England FA, we'd like you to play for us. So would that
Brilliant.
be something you'd like to do?" And so in my head, I thought, well, I can't play for Australia because it doesn't work. It
Yes.
doesn't work for my club, my professional career. And England, of course, were way, way above the level of Australia. And I thought, oh my God, this is just incredible. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be absolutely honoured, and that's
Yeah.
how it turned out.
Absolutely, because when the FA did approach you, you did state, and I will quote actually your words, which is quite brilliant. England came along and asked me to play for them. If I hung around for another year and got my British citizenship, well, perfect. My father was Italian and my mother was Australian, so I have no English parentage at all. So you've got your British citizenship and play for England. It's simple, isn't
It's straightforward. That's
it?
it. But
Yes.
what I would say now is I spent 15 years of my life in Australia, and now I've spent 3 years of my life in England. So I love the damp and the weather and the cold winter so much. I've stayed here forever. So
I can't
it
believe that
wasn't
at
if
all.
I, well, no, yeah, but it wasn't if I buggered off back to Australia. But no, I was absolutely honoured to put on that white shirt was really,
Yeah,
really special. So I started in the England under 21s
that's
with
right.
Dave Sexton was the manager, and then he made me captain, which I thought, yeah, I just felt really, really good.
Good
Gaza was in
coach.
my team. Gaza was, yeah, Des Walker, Nigel Clough, that sort of era. Had a really good team, and then we jumped up to the full squad kind of all together, and yeah, I had some great experiences.
Yeah, of course, these days the players in the Premier League fly all over the world, as I think we kind of said a bit earlier, to play for their countries. They're different times back then, weren't they, Tony, really, to
Yeah,
what they are today. So not quite so simple to play for your country. It is
no,
now.
it's Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, and I think now, obviously, the Premier League has got that huge and popular. We attract all the best players from around the world,
Exactly.
and fortunately, FIFA have aligned the calendars now, so it is pretty simple for everyone to jet off, in that
Yes.
free weekend and play for their country. And I'll be really honest. If it was times now,
Mm.
when it was back then, I'll be jetting back to Australia to play for Australia.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. But
That's that's honest.
it is what it is. But I was delighted to represent England, and yeah, I soon learnt the words of the anthem, and and uh,
Got your
and
British
what I
citizenship.
yeah, what I will say is that every single player and the managers and coaches were so welcoming. Made me
Mm.
so welcome and feel at home. And yeah,
Fantastic.
it's a great experience.
Yeah, you made 7 appearances for what I see for the England B team and 11 for the England under-21s before going on
Yeah.
to earn 15 England caps for the real national side with your debut in 1989 against Yugoslavia. I mean, not a
Mm.
bad record, Tony, is it? And how was your debut for the senior England team against Yugoslavia, the former Yugoslavia, of course, doesn't exist
Yeah,
anymore.
and they had a really good side. They
They
had
did.
some really good players there. It was at Wembley. Yeah, it's like a dream, really. It was just
Mm,
incredible. I think I played against Brazil a couple of times as well.
yeah,
Played in the World Cup against Italy, and that was probably uh, clearly from an experience point of view. Playing in a World Cup was
mm,
just amazing. Playing in a World Cup in 1990
yes,
for England, and the run that we had getting to the semi-final was, to be kind of in there and part of all that was amazing. And then to finally start the game in the third,
yeah,
fourth place playoff against Italy was incredible. But I think my abiding memory, the two abiding memories of that particular experience was firstly at the end of the game. So at the end of the game, so I'd played the whole game. Unfortunately, we lost 2-1,
mm,
but I crossed the ball for David Platt to score
you did.
our England goal. And I played against their captain, Giuseppe Bergami. So
Mm.
all game, we kind of were up against each other. And afterwards, down in the tunnel, everyone was swapping shirts with various players. And some of their England players were trying to swap with Giuseppe Bergami, but he was going, no, no, no. And then he's waving. And I'm one of the last ones to come down. I'm thinking, I look behind thinking he's waving at someone else. And
Yes.
there was no one behind me. So I'm going, is he waving at me? I've only played the one game. I don't understand. He's the Italian captain, for goodness
Yes.
sake. And he, probably wouldn't even know who I am. But anyway, so he's waving at me. So I'm thinking, okay, shall I wave back? I'm going, yeah, okay. So I walk towards him and he says, shall we swap shirts? And I've
Nice.
gone, oh my God. I mean, that's classy though.
That is
He
classy.
did.
Yeah.
You could have swapped with Gaza or Lineker or all them, but no, he wanted to swap with me because he played against me. I'm thinking,
Yes.
well, that's incredible. So I give him my shirt. Then he says, shall we swap shorts? I went, oh, I thought, okay, no problems at all. So we take off our shorts. I give him my shorts. I've got his shorts, fine. Then he takes off his boots and he goes, what about socks? Shall we swap socks? I
Wow.
thought, okay, great. So he gives me his socks. I give him my socks. I said, Giuseppe, we really need to stop here now because otherwise it's going to get a bit embarrassing. Whatever you're wearing underneath those shorts, no, you keep it and I'll keep mine the way we go. So that for me is like a huge, I think, classy memory of an
Oh,
incredible
without doubt.
experience. But then it was after the game where my mum and dad were there. And just picture this, my father, of course, is Italian.
Mm.
He's in Italy watching a World Cup. His son is playing for England, but he is obviously Italian.
Yes.
And I went out to him and he said to me, it was crazy. He said, that was like the perfect game. I said, what do you mean, perfect game, Dad? He says, well, you played really well. You set up their goal and Italy won. It's ideal. I know, Dad, no, that's wrong. But yeah, it's just a great, great memory that was. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic one too. And it was so unlucky, weren't we, at the 1990 World Cup? We really were.
Oh,
But, moments
the
away from getting to the
semi-final.
final.
I know.
Penalty misses. Oh, dear. Well,
I know. Let's not go there. Well,
let's
you
not
say
go
that,
there.
but in the latest Euros, I have to say,
Well, those penalties were
Gareth
brilliant.
Southgate, the way that he sorted the players out and
Mm,
those 5 penalties we scored from were just superb. So, he's obviously done a lot of work on that. We didn't. During 1990, we didn't do a load of work like that. We didn't go through the system of starting
exactly.
on the halfway line, walking up to the ball, and all. Even in training,
Yes.
you need these sorts of things to understand or just to be better prepared. How can you be better
Correct.
prepared? Well, that's how you can do it. So Gareth Southgate and his boys, proved it. So fair play to them.
No, quite right too. I'm watching that final and I thought, oh no, penalties. Do I walk out? No, I'll stick with it because I always do, because we all know the history of England and penalties. And every penalty was taken with absolute precision. I don't think I've
Wonderful.
seen better 5 penalties in my life. They were brilliant.
No, and also sometimes I would say, oh, the goalie could have got that one or he should have done
Mm,
better. I don't think the goalie could have done anything,
no,
about them.
they were
That's how
just
good they
brilliant.
were. So it was superb. Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
So we can probably say now that England now as a national side can win penalty shootouts. Let's hope when the next manager coach comes in that continues, because within these tournaments, without doubt, penalties are an everyday occurrence, aren't they? They happen all the time. So you can win or lose matches all the time on penalties. So you've got to be good at it. You really have.
Yeah, and I think when you get to these tournaments, it's all about key moments.
Mm,
Key moments, whether it's a free kick, whether it's a tackle in the box, or whatever it might be, or
exactly.
that chance. You just have to take that chance, and you're right. Or it could be a penalty.
Yeah.
So you need to cover every single base. But I think what Gareth Southgate has certainly produced over his 8 years, I think he was in
Mm,
charge, was that he's managed to get a culture in the England squad that I think has been the best for all times. Because
absolutely.
sometimes sometimes you get certain players from certain clubs that have a grievance with players from other clubs, and
Mm,
yeah, in England, you then have to all play together. They don't always kind of work perfectly well together. But I look at from the outside, I look at this last 8 years or so, and what he has done well is promote a
mm,
harmony within every single player, a comfort. I think that they're all are together in each other's company, as well as with the media, as well
Yes.
as they're a unit, in all senses of the word. So I think that's testament to the manager, because that's all about culture. Yeah.
I absolutely fully agree with you, and I don't, you can argue with other people as much as you like till the cows come home. But in my view, Gareth Southgate is without doubt the best England manager we've ever had in the history of English football, in my opinion. I know Sir Alf Ramsey won the World Cup, but they were different times. You look at what's going on now, and what Gareth Southgate has done is he's pulled our nation up to the top levels of football, and hopefully now we can remain there and win tournaments. Two finals in a row in the Euros. He's taken us to a semi-final in the World Cup, quarter-final. I mean, you don't get better than that other than winning the tournaments, do you really, Tony?
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think what's fascinating with the England job, and I've seen it
Mm,
from a player's point of view, and you've got a Bobby Robson,
yes,
who, what an incredible man that
he was.
that guy was. I mean, I loved him. I would run through a brick wall for him, as all his players would. But before the World Cup, they were kind of calling for his head,
They were.
and then we almost won the World Cup, just
Almost.
missing out on the final. And suddenly he's an absolute hero. But it's margins, it's tiny margins. And Gareth Southgate is the
Small
same,
margins.
isn't
Exactly
it? Is
right.
it not? I mean, all the abuse that he got in the
Yes,
media after 3 or 4 games, and then if he beat Spain in the final, he would have been, oh, he's lauded as the best. Well, you can't be the worst and then the best within a
you
day or
can't.
two. It's just the way that it is.
And if we hadn't have had that lapse moment to let in that very, very late Spanish winner, it would have gone to extra time, probably penalties, and then we would have thought, we know we can win this because our penalty
Yeah,
takers were fantastic.
yeah. But I look at the final, and I think the better team won.
Oh, they did, yeah,
Unfortunately,
they did.
Spain were better than us. I thought we didn't keep possession very well.
No, I agree with you.
Their closing down was exceptional, and we couldn't find a way through that.
Their
But
pressing was good as well, wasn't
their
it?
pressing was great, yeah, and it was frustrating, because I think at times we didn't play our best. I thought the
Mm,
first 45 minutes against Netherlands, we were superb. That bit was kind of the best that we played. He always felt that we could do something, but we couldn't quite get across the line. But how many times have we got across the line?
I
Only
know.
once.
Yeah.
So it is not easy to win these things. So
No, it's not.
I know it's like success, but unfortunately, if you don't win, it can't always be a disaster either. So yeah, you're right. I think he's done great. Two major finals in those time was wonderful.
I'll let the next manager coach take that and get us to a final and get us to win something. That's the next
Let's
step,
hope
isn't it?
so.
Let's hope
Let's
so
hope so. No,
indeed.
it is. Yeah, it is. It is. How do we go that next step? So there's no doubt that we are producing some world class players.
Yep, we are.
Now we just need to produce that world class team.
We do.
And those moments, those key moments, will be vital.
Exactly. Well said, Tony. I fully agree with everything you said there. Now back to Torino. I said we were going to come back. Due to financial reasons, Torino were forced to release you, and you extended your playing career with 2 years at Derby County.
Yeah.
Obviously disappointing about being released by Torino because it sounds great with the pizzas and the food and the wine and the proseccos. But how were you? How were your 2 years at Derby County?
Um, I really enjoyed them because I came across a club
Mm,
which were really friendly.
yep.
The strange thing was I came across a club that weren't trying to win the league, and I know that sounds kind of obvious, but for me, I've always wanted to win the league. I
Mm,
don't start a season thinking, oh, I want to finish 16th.
yes.
I'm going, no. I'm thinking at the start of the season, we can do great things. We might win the league.
Mm,
So when I was at Chelsea, I wanted to win the league. We all did. When I
mm,
was at Leeds, well, we wanted to win the league. Well, we did win the league,
you
but
did.
you always try to win the league. When
Yes.
I go to Derby, they didn't want to win the league because they couldn't win the league. But
Yeah.
it was just a mentality change,
Mm,
which was really interesting. The other interesting thing was you had an old archetypal historical manager in Jim Smith,
mm,
and then you had this up and coming new style coach in Steve McLaren.
yes.
So I had him for 2 years at Derby County, and Steve, at that time for me, he was the best coach I've ever had.
Wow.
He was
That's a
that good.
statement. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the stuff he was doing, how he was doing it, how he would bring me in to some of the decision making at
Mm,
times. He brought in data analysis.
Mm.
First thing that ever happened in the UK was at Derby County. That was Steve bringing it in. Then we had a sports psychologist, again, all very new. And
Yes.
we had a League of Nations, and the players were from everywhere across the world. And it was like a really strange mix, but
Mm.
I loved it because it was another new experience. And we did fantastic. We finished,
Yeah.
I think, eighth or ninth or something, two best seasons. Well, that's the best I've ever finished. It
Well,
was back when I played down there.
yes.
Otherwise, after that, it was all kind of downhill. So we had some really good players, Italians, Croatians, Georgians, Jamaicans, Danish, Estonians, you name it. It was crazy. It was crazy. And why I say that is because there was a time when Jim Smith said, "Right, I will let the lads have a day off, Tony. So I'm going to allow you to go to Cheltenham, the Gold Cup, because we're not playing until I think Sunday to Monday, whatever it was. So you can go to the Gold Cup. Derby County, on the club's cost, will provide you with the coach. We'll give you a champagne breakfast, the
Wow.
tickets, everything. You all go down there, have a day off together, but I want you to do something together. So go in and tell the boys that that's what you're doing." So I'm thinking, well, I can't tell them, but I better just see if that is a winner or
Yes.
not. So I go in, I sit them all down and say, "Right, lads, this is what's happening. If we train hard the day before, we do a bit of running, we're going to get a day off, and we're going to jump on a coach, champagne breakfast, down, watch the horses, and come back on the evening. And who'd like to do it?" Only 4 people put their hands up.
Really? I can't believe that.
I can't believe that. So I'm thinking, but why? So I talked to the Italians. I said to Stefano,
Yes.
Stefano, why don't you want to go? He goes, "I don't like horses." I said, "No, I said, you don't understand.
Yes.
Forget the horses. It's just that." He goes, "No, I don't like horses. I don't want to bet. I don't like horses." Anyway, it was unbelievable. So I'm thinking,
Yeah.
okay, this isn't going to work. What do I do? So I thought, okay, what about golf? Does anyone like to play golf? No, like 5 or 6 people, that was it. So I ended up stumbling upon something that we all agreed to do as a group, and that
Wow.
was to go-karting. So
That's good though, isn't it?
it's good. It was great fun. The idea was to do something together, so we all went
Yeah.
go-karting, but it was brilliant. So yeah, there was lots of things like that I really did enjoy about playing for Derby. Yeah, it was good
Oh,
fun.
interesting. But a day out at the races with a champagne breakfast. Yeah, that'd have been my tick in the box, that's for sure.
Exactly. I'm for that, but no can do.
I mean, you spent a final season at Stoke City where you were made club captain before retiring in 2001 at the age of 35. I mean, a tremendous football career, Tony, wasn't it? Has to be said.
I was, absolutely delighted to get that far. I wanted to just spend one more year at Derby, but those last 2 years, I'd only played like 25, 30 games a season. So I was
Yes.
getting injured more and more. And I couldn't kind of get through a season without breaking down a couple of times with my hamstrings or something or other. So it was pretty frustrating. So I just wanted to try and get to 35. And
Yes.
Derby said, well, we can't pay you what we're paying you anymore. So I thought, okay. And I lived up in Cheshire. So I wanted to just go to some club that's close by.
Mm.
And Stoke City came to me and they really wanted to sign me, and they wanted to do everything they could to make me feel welcome. And
Oh, brilliant.
players, a lot of it, that's what it's about. That's what
Yes.
it's about, just to be wanted. And they did, and they were wonderful. It was difficult. It was League One, but the boys down there were great. The manager was Gudjon Torderson, the Icelandic. John Rudge was there, the old Rudgy. But I
Mm.
really enjoyed my time, but I couldn't get them promoted. We lost in the playoff again,
Yeah.
so that was disappointing. But no, I had a lovely time, and finally retired at 35. I walked out of the changing rooms, put all my boots straight into the
Yep.
bin. As I walked 10 yards, I looked back.
Yeah.
The apprentices were all fighting. They went into the bin to grab the frigging boots. They ran off, and that's it. Never put a pair of boots on
Yeah.
since. But happy that I did.
You did
that.
well to get to
Yeah.
35, let's be honest. A lot of
Yeah.
players don't, so that's fantastic.
No,
And of course,
absolutely. Yeah.
since retirement, Tony, you've worked in the media and worked as a pundit and commentator for Eurosport, Bravo, Channel 5,
Yeah.
ESPN, and Sky Sports, plus worked with Radio Air, of course, covering Leeds United's Premier League campaign at the time. So please tell us more about your media work and, of course, any interesting stories that you've been part of, because it often is in media, isn't there? Let's be honest.
Well, yeah. The media is great because you're still kind of involved in
Mm.
football, but not kind of at the sharp end. You're just talking about what you love, basically. So
Yes.
I went straight and worked for ITV. Had a 3-year TV contract with ITV,
Wonderful.
and then I've been freelance kind of ever since, doing lots of different companies. So I've been out to the Middle East. I worked out there for 5-6 years for BN Sports. I now still work for TNT Sports, formerly BT Sport. I do the Serie A, the Italian football, for them. I do all sorts of stuff, and that's what I like, because I can go to a live game with Leeds United and commentate live, or I can go to a studio and do some punditry, or I can go to London and commentate on games in Italy. I shouldn't have said that, by the way. Everyone thinks we're actually in Milan or Naples, but we're not.
Well,
We're in London.
yes.
But yeah, so all of these different things. Whereas I'm still involved, I'm still really interested in it, but I don't have all the pressure of being a manager or a coach, or getting sacked or abused or having to move around the country. I just something that I enjoy. I have got my badges. I could have gone into coaching. I could have done all of that. But
Yes.
I think whatever you do, you have to believe in it, and you have to really love it and want to do it.
Mm.
And I wasn't convinced, but I do love the media. So I made the right choice for me.
Yeah, you're a great media man as well. I mean, listen to you on this show, it says it all, doesn't it, really? And of course, when we met at Ellen Road in June, you came across as a fantastic media person, Tony. It's your natural media personality, aren't you? You really are. It's brilliant.
I just enjoy it. And what's
Yeah.
interesting is that when I was young, I was an introvert.
Mm.
And so what that tells me is you can always learn. You can always push
Yes.
yourself further. You can always get out of your comfort zone, push those boundaries, and find, actually what you are good at and enjoy. And
Yeah.
so as well as all the punditry, I also do some business keynote speaking as well. And
That's
of course,
good.
you attended a Dream Team Experience Day,
I did.
which is fantastic. So all those experiences I've had in football, I kind of align them to business, because I actually
Mm.
had a business for 6 or 7 years myself. I developed property down in the Algarve. So I understand the issues around the business.
Yes.
I know what I learned in football. I'm basically marrying the two, and it's great. And we do them at iconic venues around the country. And of course, you came to Ellen Road
I
for one of
did
those
indeed.
days. So it's all around football, but just in different ways. So it's all good.
That's good stuff. I also understand this made me laugh when I found this, not in a bad way, in a great
What have
way.
you found? What have
That
you found?
that you appeared on the James Corden show
Oh,
prior to
yes.
the England and Germany second round match of the World Cup 2010. I mean, so what was it like sharing the TV studio with James Corden, who is clearly an interesting individual, isn't he, James Corden?
What was real interesting about that was it was a show late at night, and
Yes.
on the couch, I think, was me and a couple of other England players, but Chris Evans was
Mhm.
on there as
Wow.
well as Heston Blumenthal
Wow.
and James Corden. So that was all. So in the green room,
Mm.
we're all there just chatting away in different things, and a couple of things stood out. For me, James Corden at that time was
Yes.
really nervous. And I'm thinking, wow, you are amazing at what you do.
Yes.
It comes across so confidently, yet you are nervous at this
Wow.
point in time. And then Heston Blumenthal, talking to Heston, he brought us all a goodie bag
Mm.
of sweets. And all I'm going to say is they were the best sweets in the world.
Oh, I can
One of
imagine.
them was a playing card. One was actually a white chocolate playing card.
Yes.
Somehow it had raspberry jam in the middle. It tasted like incredible. I mean, I was forever thankful for my little goodie bag, and I actually
Yes.
then went to his restaurant, of course, as well in Marlow, which was an incredible 3 Michelin-starred restaurant, which was amazing. So I had lots of experiences like that. But that show was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool, I've got to say. So it's interesting to hear your story on that, Tony. It's fantastic. What is next in the world of Tony Dorigo? What's on your plans now? Media work,
Um,
obviously.
yeah, I think for me, I'm doing lots more with the club, with Leeds
Mm.
United, and I think we have an opportunity really to grow the club, to get it back to where I think the club deserves to be, and that is the upper echelons of the Premier League. We certainly have the name, we have the fan base, all around the world, but we are in the Championship.
Mm.
And I think the new owners that we've got in the 49ers see the potential. We've just got a Red Bull as sponsors, and they clearly see potential. They're not sponsoring Leeds United for the Championship. They want to get us up in the Premier League. So just to be part of that evolution of the club and try and get back to where we should be. Because I think what's happened with Leeds being outside the Premier League for so long, the clubs like a Chelsea, like Man City, Manchester United, Arsenal, Tottenham, their size and infrastructure and what they've got off the pitch is just dwarfing what we've got at Leeds United. So we have a long, long way to go. But that journey, I think, is quite exciting. And the 49ers see that journey. They see the potential. And I just want to really help to be part of that. I think will be great.
Fantastic. That sounds brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. And we are over the hour now, Tony. So an hour just goes so quickly, doesn't it?
I mean, already, wow, incredible.
So much. But as always, on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show, we could talk forever, Tony, and I know we could because we're both similar, really, in that way, about your life in top professional football, domestically and internationally too. It's been a huge pleasure as always, and as always, the pleasure's all mine, and of course the show's audience when this podcast is released on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show and the Lord Russell Baker YouTube channel. Thank you, Tony. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you Tony Dorigo. As you can see, I'm clapping of the hands here. It's been a fantastic show.
Thank you very much.
And if you don't mind just staying on for a couple of minutes after, I'll just wrap up and have a quick chat. I'll talk to you about the book. It'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
As well. So the next episode on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show is a man forever etched in Yorkshire cricket history, where my special guest will be Colin Graves. Colin Graves was the executive chairman of Yorkshire County Cricket Club from 2012 to 2015. He was elected deputy chairman of the England and Wales Cricket Board in April 2015. And in 2015, Colin Graves succeeded Giles Clarke as chairman to serve until 2020. Colin Graves was appointed a Commander of the Order of the British Empire, the CBE to all of us, in the 2020 New Year's Honours list for services to cricket. In 2024, it was announced that Colin Graves would be returning as non-executive chairman of Yorkshire County Cricket Club. Brilliant. What a story. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing you all on the inside. So until then, it's au revoir from him and au revoir from me.